With the latest agriculture news from across the state and nation, it's time for the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. Here's your host, Sabrina Halverson.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning on the AgNet News Hour. We have a special program for you today for this Labor Day. I am in Rollag, Minnesota, and I am joined by another nationally known farm broadcaster joining me here, Rusty Halverson, whose name may sound familiar because he has been on our airways on the AgNet News Hour. Also, he is my husband. So, Rusty, we are here at the Rollag annual Steam Threshers event. Tell me a little bit about what this is and what our listeners are hearing right now.
Well, hi there, stranger. Thanks for having me on the show today. And it is a good day, a beautiful day for some steam threshing. And where we're at, Sabrina, it's the Western Minnesota Steam Threshers Reunion. They've been holding every Labor Day weekend since 1954. And we are talking generations of men and women and their families returning each year to Steamer Hill here near Rollag, Minnesota. And they celebrate all things agriculture from the early days, and also we're looking at a steam engine right now. There's a little bit of everything from steam power to gasoline power to diesel power, and at this year's Western Minnesota Steam Threshers Reunion, it's the year of the Deere. They're featuring John Deere tractors, and you can see green and gold no matter where you look. Lots of flags, lots of tractors on display. Hundreds, if not 1,000 tractors here for John Deere. So well attended, and this year is really special for a lot of folks.
And in fact, you're hearing some of those John Deere tractors behind us. There is a station set up here with a little square that's roped off where kids can jump on a tractor with an adult and take a driving lesson on the tractors here. Are you going to do this, Rusty?
I probably won't do it. I may do it. We'll see. They've got a 1939 John Deere B, it looks like, and they've also got a could be a 1949 John Deere R, I believe. They started producing those in 1949. But for the little kiddos, they've got an escort driver, kind of a guidance counselor on the tractor, if you will, and they let them do little loops and get a feel for themselves to drive the tractor, because it's kind of tough. You know, you watch all these tractors going by, you've got the parade, you've got all the static displays, and why not get one of the little kids on there too? So it's really fun.
I am far from being a little kid, but I'm absolutely going to get on one of those tractors and drive it around. And you can get some pictures of that we'll put up on my social media page, facebook.com/Sabrina Halverson. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Rusty.
Yeah.
You were not prepared for this question. In fact, you weren't even prepared for me to interview you. But listeners may not know, but this very event was one of our first dates. I flew out from California and met you out here, and we saw a lot of things. What are some of the things that we've been seeing year after year out here at Rollag?
Well, I knew you were a keeper after you put up with me out here all day, so that was a good thing. But there's a little bit of everything. It's not just steam tractors and older tractors. It's also a sawmill. They've got a sawmill here. Before the days of computers and lasers and high-tech equipment, sawmills, they were all powered by steam and muscle. And so they've got a working sawmill here. They've got big logs, and they ride back and forth on these sleds, cables, and pulleys and belts, and they slice up these big logs into itty-bitty boards. And for folks that stop by, you can take a little piece of the show home with you. And speaking of taking a piece of the show home with you, they've got, for lack of a better term, a big steam-powered hammer. I mean, a big hammer. This thing stands probably, 20, 25 feet tall. And every half hour, they operate this steam hammer, and its sole job is to smash a commemorative plate that they do each year. So every year since the 1950s, they've been making these plates. And so people stop by, you wait, the anticipation builds, and then there's a crew of about 3-4 guys working the hammer, and the hammer goes up, 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 and you wait, and then all of a sudden it goes down, thwump, and there's one plate.
One plate every half an hour.
Well, they do make a lot more So folks can take one of those home too. And there's some people that have been coming here for decades and decades. They've got plates from way, way back. So that's another neat little feature.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of food here. I knew you would like the food vendors here. It's good old home-style food. Church ladies cook it. There's various churches around here that come in, and they all have little buildings, little food stands. So you can get everything from a karma roll to maybe a big Thresherman's breakfast, they call it. Everything from eggs, hash browns, sausage, the whole ball of works. So yeah, it's very popular.
So I want to explain for our listeners in California the caramel roll, because that's not really something that we have out there in California, and it was one of the reasons I married you, actually. But it's fantastic. It's basically a cinnamon roll with a delicious caramel sauce put on top, and every place has them out here.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's a staple out here.
Yeah, it is. All right. So a lot of really fun things out here at the Steam Thresher, but I really like that it is just a huge celebration of agriculture, of what the agricultural roots, pardon the pun, have been, but look back at our history and farming history.
Not only that, this is kind of a family event for a lot of folks. They've got camping here on the grounds, and a lot of people come out and camp for their Labor Day weekend. This is their camping trip. It just happens to be surrounded by thousands and thousands of tractors. But since families are here throughout the day, besides just the good food, there's also a lot of music here too, free music in the gazebo and the churches, sometimes just under a shade tree. I understand late at night, sometimes the blacksmith shop gets a little jam session going on too.
Fun.
Yeah, so a lot of music here too. It's a family atmosphere. It's really fun.
All right.
And you see everybody from the ages of 6 months old to 96.
Yeah. Or more.
Or more.
Well, thank you so much for starting out your day, spending a few minutes talking with me. I appreciate it. I'm sure that you felt like you didn't have any other choice, but it is appreciated. Thanks for sharing a little bit of this with our audience out in California. It's not something that we get to see out there a lot of. We don't talk about steam threshing a lot out in California, and so it's been really fun for me over the last 10 years to come out here every year and learn a little bit about all of this.
And there are a lot of people that come in from out of state, out of Minnesota, of course, the surrounding region, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin. I understand there's a lot of East Coast people that make the trek every year because they may have had friends or family or roots in this area. And it's something that they come back to every year. Labor Day weekend at Rollag, it's a thing, baby.
Yeah. All right. Well, and I'm going to put a lot of pictures up. In fact, I have been putting a lot of pictures up over the weekend on my social media so that people can check out some of the things that they will be hearing about throughout the morning show today. And we have more interviews coming up from out here in Rollag. We'll talk about some John Deere. And what else you got going on?
Well, also, if folks want to check it out beyond just your social media pages, they can go to rollag.com or check out the Western Minnesota Steam Threshers Reunion on Facebook.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Rusty. You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson out here in Rollag, Minnesota, where we are at the annual Steam Threshers event. I'm talking with Patrick. Patrick, what was your last name?
Donegan.
All right, tell me a little bit about what you are doing out here.
So I am the expo chairman, or one of them. We have a committee of about 10 guys that help put this together. We started 5 years ago. Started out, there's 3 of us. We were in college, and we got this wild idea that we were going to put together this John Deere event. We didn't really understand what we had in front of us, but it's all come together over the course of the last 5 years, and we're just super excited to see everything out here and all the exhibitors that have come out for it, and especially the spectators to enjoy it.
Yeah, so teaming up with the John Deere event, teaming that up with the annual Steam Threshers event here in Rollag, natural fit, right?
Absolutely. The Steam Threshers event started back in 1953 and has grown and grown since then, and it's hard to even explain the size of this show and how large it is expanded out and the various areas that they show. I mean, they've got everything from agricultural to construction equipment out here. They've got ladies' activities and everything in between.
Yeah. So what got you interested in starting a John Deere event?
I guess I collect John Deeres myself. I bought my first tractor when I was 12 years old. I think my folks thought it was going to be a phase, and unfortunately it wasn't. So I collect John Deeres and involved in several John Deere clubs, and just it had been since 2008 since they'd featured John Deere out here, and we thought it was about time that we get her going again.
Yeah. So you collect John Deere. About how many would you say you have?
I'd say I try to keep around 10. I buy and sell quite a bit, move them around. I like to buy them non-running, get them running, move them on, and find another project. Just the challenge is exciting for me.
Yeah. So what's the toughest problem that you've ever fixed?
I've taken tractors and rebuilt from the ground up, I guess. We've completely rebuilt engines. It's been a learning curve. Luckily, there's a lot of guys out in this hobby that are very willing to share their knowledge and experience. I've made some mistakes over the years, and costly mistakes, and have had to go buy more expensive parts because of it. But yeah, I guess they all have their unique challenges. But I'd say once you tear something down to the frame and you got the whole engine apart, then you're in pretty deep.
So with the John Deere event here, most like I told you before we started, most of my listeners are in California. They're not going to be out here this weekend. So tell them, what are they missing out on?
Well, we one of the first things you see when you walk in the gate is we've got a 1924 John Deere D. It's the first model that John Deere designed, marketed, and produced with their name on it. It came out in 1923, but we got this 24 sitting next to a 2024 John Deere tractor to show the 100 years of progress between the two. Beyond that, you've got everything in between. We've got tractors from the 70s. We've got tractors from the 20s up to the new stuff, like I said. We've got some very, very large collectors in from all over the country. Out as far as Pennsylvania, a guy drove 1,350 miles to be here with two of his tractors, and there's collectors all over. We've got experimental stuff here. We've got 820 John Deere is a very popular tractor. It's the biggest tractor John Deere made in the late 50s. And we've got serial number 1 here. It's the first one off the assembly line. Several tractors, one of 2 produced, one of 90 produced, one of 50. So very, very rare stuff. Something that appeals to John Deere collectors, and I think any collector in general, is just the rarity of some of this stuff.
Yeah. So what goes into putting together an event like this?
It's a lot of networking, phone calls. Facebook has been wonderful to network with guys. It's just kind of asking people to come out and spreading the word and gaining some traction and excitement around it. And you get some collectors that get excited. They're going to come. They talk to friends of theirs. And it's crazy how it snowballed. There's some really, really impressive stuff that rolled in here that I had no idea was even coming. But they talked to somebody who talked to somebody. And it's just kind of getting the word out. And then just kind of layout and merchandise. We set all that up, and yeah, I'd have to look back at everything we did. It's kind of a blur right now, but
yeah.
It's super exciting to see this all unfold.
Yeah, perfect. All right, thank you so much for your time, Patrick, and have a great event.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming out.
This is the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, and we will continue from Rollag, Minnesota right after this. You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, reporting from Rollag, Minnesota today for the annual Steam Threshers event. We're going to go now to Brian Jorman, AgNet West News Director, for a preview of today's AgNet West headlines.
There's some optimism as harvest season is in full swing in the Central Valley. After coming off of a record year of crop value in 2023, Fresno County Farm Bureau CEO Ryan Jacobson said things are trending in a positive direction for some commodities this year.
Where we are in harvest right now, I mean, it's so far as the year, it was a decent water year, but unfortunately that didn't necessarily translate to a decent water allocation for our federal contractors on the west side. So we're going to see some issues there. But as far as what crop production's done, but overall, I mean, I think most things we're bringing in the crops right now. It's the busiest time of year as so many of our crops are harvested right now. Things are looking okay on the production side. There's always, there's going to be some exceptions, but for the most part, it looks okay. We're seeing some strengthening of market prices for a lot of these commodities. Still watching what happens on particularly the wine grape side. There's been obviously a big downward trend on that the last year and a half, and so hopefully we can try to pick up that a little bit. But the nut prices seem to be trending mostly in the right direction right now, which is a good thing. Milk is a little more solid than it's been. So overall, I'm hoping that things are a little brighter by the time that this harvest season's wrapped up here, going into October, November. We probably, there's a lot of variables that could be thrown at us there, but I think at this point we want to wrap up this harvest, hope for a good wet winter, that we can have those water supplies again next year, and continue to fight the regulatory and legislative battles that we have going on that are really, making it that much more difficult to farm in the state.
The Fertilizer Institute has awarded the third certification under its Certified Biostimulant program to Valent Biosciences for its Transit 500 biostimulant. The newly launched program ensures that biostimulant products meet strict standards for effectiveness, safety, and composition, making it easier for farmers and retailers to trust their choices. Transit 500 is a liquid biostimulant that helps plants handle stress better, boosts fertilizer efficiency, and improves nutrient uptake, leading to stronger root and shoot growth. With this certification, Transit 500 gets a special label showing it meets the U.S. biostimulant industry guidelines. TFI's president, Corey Rosenbusch, emphasized that this certification gives confidence in selecting biostimulants that truly work, while Valent Biosciences expressed excitement about being one of the first to achieve this recognition. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack recently announced nearly $100 million in funding for 160 clean energy projects across 26 states. The funds from programs like the Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program and Rural Energy for America program aim to boost biofuels and clean energy in rural areas. These initiatives create jobs, enhance energy security, and support the economy, with projects including the installation of solar panels, energy-efficient equipment, and biofuel dispensers. The USDA continues to accept applications for the Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program until September 30th. USDA's invested more than $600 million from the Inflation Reduction Act for more than 4,500 clean energy projects through REAP, and more than $180 million in more than 200 projects that increase availability of domestic biofuels across the country. California's minimum wage is set to increase once again starting January 1st, 2025. The increase to $16.50 per hour will apply to all employers regardless of size. The increase is based on inflation, specifically a 3.18% rise in the U.S. Consumer Price Index. However, there is a chance the minimum wage could go up even more. Proposition 32, which will be on the state ballot in November, proposes a $2 increase. If it passes, large employers will need to pay $17 per hour immediately and $18 per hour starting in January 2025. Small businesses with 25 or less employees would have to pay $17 in 2025 and $18 in 2026. Employers will need to stay updated as the outcome of Proposition 32 could require quick adjustments to wage policies. U.S. Poultry is now accepting nominations for the 2025 Family Farm Environmental Excellence Award. The award honors family-run poultry and egg farms for their outstanding environmental practices. The award is open to family-owned growers and producers who work with U.S. Poultry members or are members themselves. Nominations are due by October 25th. Winners from various regions will be announced at the 2025 International Poultry Expo in Atlanta, where they'll receive a $1,000 cash prize, recognition on U.S. Poultry's website, and media promotion. They'll also get to attend the event with travel and hotel expenses covered. Previous winners will need to wait 3 years before reapplying. The award celebrates the ongoing efforts of poultry farmers to enhance environmental stewardship. The application and competition details are available at uspoultry.org. I'm Brian German for AgNet West Radio Network.
You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, reporting from Rollag, Minnesota, where I'm sitting down with Brian Nelson. Brian, tell me a little bit about your role out here at the Steam Threshers event.
Well, I've been up here since day one. I'm 58 years old, and I've pretty much been there, done that with everybody. It's just, I don't specialize in one certain area. I've helped with every John Deere Expo we've had. We've had 3 major ones over the years, and yeah, it's been great. I wouldn't give up any second of it. Yeah, it's great.
So tell me about what are some things that are different now from when it started?
Oh, it's the people and the number of tractors. and there's new exhibits every year. The construction, we got steam shovels here that weren't here maybe 20 years ago. We had one little steam shovel, and then right now we've got the world's largest operating steam shovel that's here.
Well, I'm going to have to pause you right there and ask you, what is a steam shovel?
You
I haven't been over there yet to see the steam.
We're going to be right back there.
So tell our listeners what it is.
Oh, it's a steam shovel. It's the same model that built the Panama Canal.
Wow.
They've tried to take the serial numbers off of this unit to match it with units down there, but the record keeping wasn't quite there. So, but it's the same model that built the Panama Canal, and it's the only one working in the world right now, and it's here at Rollag.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. So for our listeners, is there someplace where they can see that online?
Oh yeah, yeah. Rollag's got a lot of YouTube channels, and there are a lot of YouTubes people put on YouTube of the show. They'll walk around and take videos and feature it, and yeah, there's a lot of videos out there you can be seen.
Yeah. So what is this is going to be like asking you to choose your favorite child, but what is your favorite thing about the show?
Everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's the people. I've got a collection of tractors here myself, but the tractor will start at home perfectly. You bring it up here, you get two people watching you, it's not going to start. You're going to have to fight with it. But when you're sitting there working on the tractor, some guy will come up, oh, this is probably what you need to fix. So we fix it, and it starts. You learn so much from other people up here, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
You won't see this stuff. We got 5,000 members, and the number's increasing every day now, obviously, and nobody's paid up here. It's all nonprofit. Not a single person gets paid. Every person is treated the same. The person, Don Duffner here, that brought all the John Deeres, he paid $30. I believe that's what it is. $30 to come in and show the tractor. And you get the fellow here that comes here to pick up garbage. He'll pay $30 to come up here and work. And it's just the atmosphere is so. You can't experience it anywhere else but here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm sorry.
So do you go to other steam thresher events, or is this the one that you do every year?
This is the main one. I've gone to several. I've gone to other ones in Ohio and a few others in Minnesota. I've even attended one in Sweden back several years ago. But I was there's a tractor collector there. I walked by. He was working on his John Deere tractor, and started visiting. And he asked me if I knew Don Duffner. I said, yeah, I know him. So here I'm in Sweden talking about Don Duffner here in my backyard.
Yeah. It's funny sometimes once you realize what a small world it actually is.
Oh, it is. It really is. I was in an airport in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I asked the fellow who was with me, or we met, I guess, and he asked me where I lived. I said, well, Minnesota. And he said, where in Minnesota? I said, well, up by Fargo-Moorhead. I said, he didn't know quite where that was. He was from Canada. I said, I actually live in Rollag. I said, well, Rollag, I've been to Rollag, he said.
And Rollag, just for our listeners who are not aware, is a speck on the map. And it's kind of funny that you wouldn't know where Fargo is, but yet you would know where tiny little Rollag, Minnesota is.
Yeah, Rollag, during the off season, it's probably maybe 10 people there. They got 2 churches, but there's no stores. There's not, nothing. But the showgrounds here is 210 acres, and there's activities. We got a portion of it is a parking lot, obviously, and we got a campground here. But a majority of it is working exhibits, where we encourage people to if they bring equipment here, we encourage them to be running, and not just to sit and look at it. You can look at stuff in the museum and in the Smithsonian, but when it comes here, we encourage people to run it, drive it, get it dirty. Yeah. Don't just let it sit and spit shine it. It's working. This stuff is meant to work. It's better to work it than just to let it sit and rust.
That's right. All right, I'm going to ask you to choose between your children again. Do you have a favorite John Deere?
Oh, well, let's see. I do have the replica of the Frolic here, which is a replica of the first John Deere. I guess people can argue if it was the Dane or the Frolic, but I got the scale model here on display. It's a replica in 1892. That would probably be my favorite right now. But next, I guess if the real tractor would be my grandpa's 1936A John Deere. He bought that new. It's been in the family the whole time, and I got it here, and I just drove it through the parade this morning. And I've worked on it a little bit. I've had friends help me this summer work on it. It hasn't ran this good for a long time, and it was such a joy to drive that through the parade, knowing my grandpa's probably looking down and smiling.
Yeah, I can see that really means a lot to you.
It does. It does. They're every tractor up here is special to somebody. We don't give ribbons out for the best restored or most original or whatever. Every tractor up here, be a kid 12 years old, worked all winter long on the tractor. You're not gonna judge him over somebody that's got probably millions of dollars, and he'll paint the tractor and not even put oil in it. So that's what's so great about up here. Everybody's treated the same, and they can bring their tractors any condition, and show it off.
Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful show out here, Brian.
Well, thanks for coming. If we can, next year is going to be another great year. We're going to be featuring the horses. We got a whole horse area here that's strictly horse farming from that era. There will be the feature next year, and it'll be another great show. It's we got 210 acres here, and there's so much activity. You can't see it all in 4 days. You gotta come and enjoy everything.
Thank you again. Have a great show. This is the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, and we will be returning from Rollag, Minnesota right after this. You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, reporting from Rollag, Minnesota, where we are at a Steam Threshers event. I have my special co-host for the day, Rusty Halverson, also my husband, and also a national agriculture reporter. And we are talking with Key. So, Rusty, I'm going to hand you the microphone and let you kick off the interview here with Key.
Okay, well, we're talking with Key Groshon, and he comes up every year for the Steam Threshers reunion. But where are you from, Key?
I am from Columbia, Missouri. So for me to do this, it's a 750-mile drive one way, and this is my second time to be here this year.
Wow.
Okay. Now, this year, Key, the theme is the year of the Deere. It's a lot of John Deere tractors, and we're not talking modern tractors. We're talking things that were brand new dang near 100 years ago.
We're talking about everything from pre-John Deere all the way up to today. So if you like John Deere equipment and you're interested in the history of the John Deere company, if you come out here, you will be able to see it, because we have a model I was telling you earlier. We have a model that was started by Waterloo Boy prior to the time John Deere bought them out. It was a model that would become the D. So John Deere built the D and finished the design, but Waterloo Boy, prior to John Deere ever buying them, had already started on that. We've got that model here. What's left of it was refabricated. They made some of it, but some of it's original. So you can see that. There are Waterloo Boys, several of those here, which is, of course, what John Deere bought when they got in the tractor business. And then we have some examples here. There's one sitting out here and some in the expo building of models that John Deere experimented with but did not ever put into full production. There is a Rollag out here. It's the gas engine mounted on a wooden cart. And that was the very, very first one. Then in the building, and one out here is a smaller model of what they call the Dane, which was a three-wheel tractor, and John Deere built several of those, but they didn't work as well. And then the inventor, or the man that was working for Deere, the engineer, died during the war. And John Deere, I don't know what prompted them, but after the war they had an opportunity to buy Waterloo Boy, which was a established dealer that had a good reputation for durability, and they ended up buying them, and that's what launched them into the tractor business in a big way, and the two-cylinder design that they were to use until 1960s when they came out with the new generation.
For folks who aren't familiar, the John Deere D tractor, that was the go-to tractor for several decades.
Oh, the John Deere D was put into production in 1924. Some will say there was a few built in 23, but normally it's considered 24. And they built that tractor for 30 years. It is the longest continuous production model number, D, I think, of any tractor ever built. I don't know if anybody ever built one longer, but they were 30 years, and they of course evolved as they did. but they still retained, they were still a 2-cylinder horizontal motor, as they would be till the end of production. But how they got that is from Waterloo. That was what they used.
And for the D, one of the things about it was its versatility, because you could plow in the spring and you could run your threshing machine in the fall with the flywheel.
It was a very versatile tractor, and it turned out to be a good tractor at a good time. Prior to the time, and something that John Deere never did do, was what they call the prairie tractors, the big tractors that had the 8-foot wheel drivers. We got a number of them here, one of the best collections in the country. But those were made to pull big gang plows that would break the prairie. They were able to break that sod that had roots that were a foot deep, and they would pull 8, 10, 12 plows. Wow. Well, the D came on after all that was broken, but those tractors were too big. They could pull the thresher, but they couldn't do the field work very well. They were too big. So Deere came out with the D. That was considered a 3-4 plow tractor, which was a nice size, but it was very versatile. As you said, it could still pull your threshing machine, not as big, not a big cylinder. The prairie tractors had 40, 42, 46-inch big cylinders that processed the grain. These were smaller, 30s. And then it would also do a lot of farm work around the yard. It could, pull your wagon and do a lot of things like that.
You're listening to the AgNet News Hour. We are reporting from Rollag, Minnesota today, and we continue now with Key and Rusty. So when we're talking tractors, I always let Rusty take the lead on the interview because he is the tractor expert between the two of us. But I wanted to ask, because he and I have very different, listening audiences. Again, mine being out in California, also has different needs, different tractor needs. Yeah. A lot of our crops out there, you're not going to see these gigantic things out there in their fields, for berries or grapes. So there is such a variety of tractors and machinery out here. I think you do see some things out here that we would see in California as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, you should. And of course, the early tractors that John Deere made, they would have been in California because everybody was making the same basic design and type. And really, after the big prairie tractors and the steam engine phased out and the prairie tractors sort of began to phase out, all the companies, even the big steam engine manufacturers, G.I. Case made more steam engines than any other company, supposedly. Well, they got in the tractor business, as did, of course, John Deere, but they were all then competing because people began to see they didn't need that big tractor. They wanted to get smaller. So you had 100 and some manufacturers try to get into that market. And of course, as you know, it evolved down to 3 or 4. And now John Deere is the only one still with the line going all the way back to John Deere. It has never been bought out. It's bought a lot of stuff out, but it has never been bought out. And in fact, John Deere Corporation was run by a direct descendant of John Deere or his, had daughters, had a son, and then his son had all daughters. So, but a descendant of John Deere until 82, from the time Deere was alive until then. So you had a long history of people that really, really cared about John Deere, and one of the reasons I think it's successful. But yes, John Deere made tractors that they used in California years ago, but they make everything today. So if you want a grape harvester, I'm sure John Deere will sell you one. And in fact, if you go in this building, you'll see down the center a group of what they call high crop tractors, and those were built for like the California has. Well, there's a whole line of those in there that Deere built back in the 40s, 30, I think the first one probably in the mid 30s on up. So they built a whole line of equipment. If you were, it's like here, you want to dig beets. Well, down my part of the country, they don't raise sugar beets, They tried one time and they could raise the beet, but they couldn't get them out of that clay soil. So it didn't work too good. But Deere they make all that. They make lifters. I'm sure they make grape equipment. They make a variety of equipment. Yeah. And they make all the road equipment now too, and so that's what people sometimes forget. We're only talking here about agricultural equipment, although you'll see some yellow tractors here, old ones, that Deere made and people use for road work. But Deere today, as you well know, they have a whole line of construction industrial equipment that they sell, big equipment, so that's used all over the country. So even if you don't farm, you got John Deere equipment often, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to put some pictures up on my social media, again, facebook.com/Sabrina Halverson, of some of those pictures, or some of those tractors that you're talking about, the old ones in the building that would have been used in California. We'll get those up on social media as well. Rusty?
Well, we've talked a lot about John Deere and the tractors, Key, but I tell you what, there's a lot more to see out here than just that. There's blacksmithing, there's the sawmill, there's the steam train. I mean, for folks who haven't been here in the past, it's a 4-day event, but it's tough to fit it all in.
I don't think it's possible to see this show in one day. If you just come in here as a tourist and you try to sample everything here, you're going to be awfully tired. You're just not probably going to be able to do that. This showgrounds is, I think, now about, the show is between 250 and 300 acres, and it's scattered out. So there's a lot of room here to move around, and so this show is not like some that are congested where they have to put everything in a tight space and can't really move it and do anything. This show, they, like you said, they start out with horse farming here. They'll just start and look at the grounds from the east to west. You start on the east side of this ground, there's a whole exhibit for just horses. They don't let any tractors in there. They've got a house that you would have bought a kit from Sears and Roebuck and assembled. They've got a big barn. They've got all the outbuildings. They've got what they call a horsepower sweep. Was horses that turned a device that had a big gear and it had what they call a tumble rod on it, and the rod went over and drove the separator. So you can see them thrashing with horses as they would have been right after the turn of the century. And then you come farther this way, and it becomes a little more like you can go up in the trees. There's a whole area up in the trees, as you know. There's small gas engines that they use to power everything from their water pump to the blacksmith shop. And they've got all those exhibits. And then interspersed with that, we've got a main street that has like a church and a big house, but there's also a mercantile, a gas station, an old one-pump gas station, a post office, all the things like you'd have. And then coming further this way, you can see lasso making, rope making, weaving, spinning, all that kind of stuff. And it just works further this way, and you get into the big prairie tractors, which were the next thing, and then the steam engines, and then you come here, which is the west side of the ground. This is the whole feature area. And then there's what they call the 30s area. There's a house right over that hump. You can't see it, but it's there. And it's a 30s type house, and there's buildings associated with that era. All right, then you begin to go this way, back to the north. Now the south is pretty much, this is the road is our line, but you go north, and you'll see big engines. They were used for pumping, most of them along this road. I mean big, like 25 or 30 feet long, that had big piston and then a big piston pump. Well, they were all set up and running. And then you come around and you'll see there's an exhibit of a foundry, how they're pouring aluminum over there, show you how they take the pattern and make the mold and pour the hot aluminum, and it comes out, and how they clean it up. Blacksmith shop, not the blacksmith shop's up in the trees. Then there's a machine shop, an old-time machine shop, and they run all these old tools. But then on the other side is a Brad and Rowan sawmill. And I was telling you, it's all steam-powered, and they have about a dozen men in there, and it's an old-time production sawmill that actually was set up at Comstock, Minnesota, and he ran it, the man, Danny Rowan, the man that he designed it and built it, and when he no longer used it, he donated to the show, and they moved it over here. And they use 210 steam engines in there to pull the blade. Wow. And they have an 80 case that provides steam for the carriage and the other equipment. So we've got that sawmill. We've got another sawmill here. There's a sawmill on what they'd call a farm type sawmill on the hill. It's just a circle sawmill, but it's 2 men or 3 can run it. Then another one like that here. There's a model sawmill on the hill too, where little kids can watch that. Then you go on around and you go across the railroad track, and there is the construction area. And you've got all the steam shovels and the big, heavy construction type equipment. And then, of course, as I said, you go across the railroad track. We have a steam train here, a full-size steam train that goes all the way around the grounds. So if you get here and you want to find out what's here, the best thing to do is get on that train and ride all the way around, and you'll get a bird's eye view of mostly what's in this ground. Then there's a model steam train's about, about a foot wide or 1.5 foot wide gauge. And that's nice. You can go ride on that. It'll haul kids and big folks. And then we've got a steam-powered merry-go-round. Kids find that all nice, too. Yeah. So you can spend a lot of time here and look. And then we do some activities. I said we do sawing, obviously. We do a lot of sawing here. We thrash. We've got several separators, and that's all done right down over here, right to the north and the west of where we're standing, right, in the expo area. And then we plow. which we haven't have enough ground, but we're going to do it 2 days this year. We plow Saturday. We'll plow with the big prairie tractors and the steam engines. So we'll be pulling, we've got a 10 bottom's the biggest plow. We got a 10, a 8, and a 6. 2 10s, 8, and a 6. So we'll be plowing with big, if you like to see the big ones plow, we'll be plowing over on the west side of the ground. And then Sunday, we're going to plow with John Deere's. And we're going to take a bunch of these different ones, whatever wants to go, and we're going to plow another piece of ground over here. One of the attractions on that is there's a man here in this part of the country by the name of Don Duffner. And Mr. Duffner is a well-known John Deere collector and authority, but he's a big farmer up here. And he liked to farm with John Deere 2-cylinders, and he put 3 830 John Deere diesels. And that was the largest 2-cylinder John Deere ever made, was the 830. He put 3 of those together, articulated. And I want to tell you, they will pull, and we're going to pull 16 bottoms on Sunday afternoon with that.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time, for chatting with us. I can see how excited you are.
I'm into it.
Thank you again, Kia. I really appreciate your time. Go have a good time out here. Well, that's been today's top agriculture news for this Labor Day. Reporting from Rollag, Minnesota, I'm Sabrina Halverson. Thank you so much for sharing your morning with us.
Thank you for listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. AgNet West Radio Network, your primary choice for agriculture news.